When you're spending time with someone, and you're forcing yourself to rather spend time with someone who doesn't feel emotionally or physically safe or has a history of abusing you, you may tend to dissociate. Hi, I'm Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed psychotherapist. And I did a dissertation study on African American women who were psychologically abused by their parents while growing up. And with the women that I interviewed, again, they had been psychologically or emotionally abused by their parents. But there is something about this sense of obligation to have a connection or have a relationship with your parents that was deeply ingrained in them, despite them not feeling safe. And a lot of women had trouble with emotionally regulating and just being able to sit with themselves in the presence of their parents, even as adults. It was something that they continue to grapple with to this day. And so a lot of times, more often than not, actually, they would find that they would just emotionally check out and they weren't even aware that they were doing it. Like they would just disconnect. And whenever that person entered the room or was in their presence, and they would try to fill the room with other things to occupy their mind or their time while they're in the room with that person, so that it appear as if you're spending time with a parent that you feel obligated to spend time with, but you weren't actually interacting with them. So an example of this would be like one of the women talked about how she would go and pick her mom up, and her mom's expectation was that like they would regularly have lunch together or something like that. And on the car ride, she would just zone out and she would turn up the radio really loud so that they couldn't have conversation. And she would try to focus on that. But the reality was she couldn't even focus on what was playing on the radio, nor could she focus on her mom in the car with her because she was overstimulated. And she would be easily triggered by her mom cussing her out or calling her out of her name or saying something that was condescending. A lot of women clients, female clients that I've worked with, also talk about checking out during intimacy, where they may be going through the motions, the mechanical motions of intimacy, physical intimacy with their partner, but they're not actually emotionally present. They don't know what's going on, and they just sort of disconnect from their mind and from their bodies, and they're just kind of there. And that actually happens a lot with people, again, when they don't feel safe, emotionally safe or physically safe. And it doesn't necessarily have to be with that specific person, but if they've had a history of, for example, sexual trauma or any other type of physical trauma, that is just something that is a trigger where they disconnect. And so if you feel like this happens to you, there are methods of treating dissociation. Another example of dissociation or freezing would also be coming home, and completely isolating and sitting by yourself and not doing anything and losing track of time. You're not even aware that you're doing it. You're kind of just in a fog or in this space. And a lot of people tend to do that. But there are ways of treating it. And I always, whenever I'm working with my clients, I teach them how to, regulate their emotions either through grounding. I also talk with them about identifying their emotions through each step of the action that they're doing and learning how to check in with themselves.